Celestia Violet Winds, A True Love by Swedish Devil. For the past few hundred years, Celestia had been quite alone. Even she has her sister back now. But she feels much lonely as much possible. Even she travels around in Equestria to Saudi Arabia, Griffinstone to meet diplomats or other ambassadors, but there's just one thing that she misses the most. That is her special song pony. She hasn't been dating any stallion for at least 500 years. The last date she had was 5 centuries ago, and that one only lasted for about 2 years. But that time, she was prepared to get married, but then the stallion who she been dating at the time was not ready for that commitment. He wasn't ready to be married and start a family, so he broke up with Celestia and went on with his life. From that breakup, Celestia then decided not to date any more stallions for some time. But then, her time as a princess with her sister was quite more difficult than she thought. To ruling a kingdom was taking more time. Even she dated with that stallion. Even she only could date him for a few times in a week. But now, since after Luna had returned, Celestia wanted to feel loved again. Even she felt lost from the other follow ponies and her sister, but she wanted to have her special song pony again. Even Luna had found her special song pony in shining armor. Celestia accepted that Luna had found her boyfriend, that she wanted also her own. So she started looking around in Equestria for some pony that she could settle down with. But unfortunately, most of the stallions that she found were not that she wanted to be. Most of those were either noble or even just at least famous pony were at least good manners. But most of the stallions were only out for one thing. And that was just for dating. Almost all of them were not ready for that kind of commitment either. Only one was ready for it, but he didn't only want to be married, but he doesn't want to have children. So Celestia decided to leave him. Until one day, when she saw a stallion in Canterlot. His name was Violet Winds. He was originally from Maidhaven, but he lived now in Ponyville with Twilight at their castle since they were friends. Twilight had told her a lot about Violet Winds, that he's a musician, a music teacher, and that he loves kids so much that he would do anything to protect either himself or his family and his friends from any type of danger. And also, Twilight and Enchantress children loves Violet Winds so much. They consider him as an uncle. So Celestia thought about maybe that she thought that Violet was very much a handsome stallion. She wonders if he even liked to maybe like her in the same way, but she didn't know about it. So even for the most time when she saw him in Canterlot or in Ponyville, she still thought that he's very handsome, and that suddenly she realized she had fallen in love with Violet Winds. Except that she didn't know if he would even accept her as a girlfriend, since she is royal and he's not even noble. He's what's what they called a normal civilian pony. In fact, Violet Winds had also been looking for a girlfriend, or even settled down someday. But for most mares he dated, he didn't felt any straight connection with any of them. He wanted to be the right time with the right mare to settle down with. He did find one mare, but it turns out she only used him for it made her boyfriend jealous. She only dated Violet Winds to make her boyfriend jealous. And it turns out it worked. The boyfriend told Violet Winds to leave her alone, and he explained what happened. That his girlfriend started to date him because to make him jealous, which he actually believed, because Violet Winds and that stallion was also friends. So when he found out about this, he actually told his girlfriend that they had to leave each other because he didn't want to have her anymore. So from that moment, Violet Winds stopped to date any mares, but even so mares often ask him out, but he said, "I'm sorry, I can't. I am too busy right now. I have school to practice with my students." So for most of the time, either is Violet in the castle practicing his music or just spending some time with his friends, but his friends are often could see that he is misery. He feels much sadness. They wanted to help him about it, so they often put up a date with some of their friends. But even he went out on those dates, he said to them that he thanks for their help, but he doesn't want to date any mare at the moment. They started to wonder what something is wrong. But he said that he doesn't want to be with his special song pony, but only when the right moment, when he finds the right mare who could sit for him. So, for the next few months after when Celestia saw Violet Winds the first time in Canterlot, he went to Ponyville to meet Twilight for a visit. Then, when she arrived at the castle, Twilight and her family wasn't even home. So Violet Winds was still home. So he'd opened the door and let her in. In fact, Violet offered her some tea and some cookies just to make some company until Twilight and her family came back. And over the time that they talked to each other, Twilight and Celestia started to get some more strong feelings for just looking at Violet Winds. She could feel her heart start to beating faster and faster, almost like it was skipping a beat. Even Violet thought about this, that he thought Celestia is the most beautiful mare than any everywhere he's seen. He even asked her if she was married or even had her special song pony, but Celestia explained to Violet that she doesn't have anyone. Then Violet used to ask if she would like maybe go out with him for just have some fun. And she said yes, and she could never believe that Violet actually asked her out. She never thought that he would never do it. So, when Twilight and her family came back home, Celestia told Twilight about this, and Twilight was stunned to hear that Violet had asked Celestia out. She never thought that any pony would ever dare, or even had the courage enough to even ask Celestia out. And especially when Luna was dating her big brother. But she was actually accepted. At first she was a little bit skeptic that Luna and Shining Armor would even work. But since they had much compassion for each other, it still works. So Twilight gave her Celestia her approval and even acceptance that she allows Violet to date Celestia, even they are not even related. But she just want to make them happy and not to be any awkwardness. Celestia stayed at the castle the same night. At the next day, Violet took with Celestia to the park, first for enjoy the park for some time, and there they took to a meadow near the lake just outside the town for a picnic. In fact, Violet had already placed a picnic basket there with cake, cupcakes, muffins, sandwiches, and even chocolate pudding, and even apple cider right from Sweet Apple Acres. When Violet's other friends told about this, they were surprised that he had asked Celestia out, but they were also supportive. For most time of this together, Celestia had never felt more happy to be with Violet Winds because he treated her like a true gentle stallion. He had never been so much happy himself. To be with Celestia made him happier than ever in his entire life. And especially the time when he dated a mare who just used him to make her former boyfriend jealous. When Celestia and Violet were on the date, they talked a lot about her past. And even then, Violet just sit there and listen carefully when Celestia told him a lot about her childhood, when she grew up, and he even laughed about some of the things that she made when she was just a filly, for example, when she told him when she tried to make the first spells that she tried to transform a rock into a bubble, but it turns out she transformed the rock into a tree. And her former student or teacher, Stoswell the Beard, was not that impressed by her, but she told him a lot about him, even there was not much record about him in the books. But they both stayed on the meadow an entire day, even to the time when she lowered the sun and Luna raised the moon. They had never been so happy together. In fact, Violet had even brought Celestia back to her castle to stay there overnight. And just there, Twilight and her family had already went to bed, so Celestia and Violet were in the library, and he made a fire, and he even brought her some tea, so they could just sit next to each other and just enjoy the fire and each other's company. In fact, they actually fall asleep next to a fire, and next morning, Twilight found them, and she didn't disturb or wake them up. She just wanted to leave them alone. It just was so perfectly romantic for them to be there. And in fact, Celestia stayed in Ponyville for the next week. But then she had to return back home because of her royal duties. Because she had to be in Saudi Arabia with Luna for the next couple of days. For trading. For they had to trade for some exotic spices, food, all kinds that they could need. And for most of the time when Celestia were in Saudi Arabia, she couldn't even stop thinking about Violet. And Violet Winds, he couldn't even stop to talk and think about Celestia. Even during his music training practice with his students, he could not stop thinking about her. She was the most perfect and most beautiful mare that he ever seen. So when Celestia had returned back to the Camelot, Violet Winds had actually went there himself after Twilight told him about it. He was wanted to be there with her to spend some little bit more time, because he told her he had to leave to be back in Manhattan just for a couple of days to see his parents again. He often went back home just to see his parents from time to time. His parents, they were unaware that Violet Winds were actually dating Celestia. When he went back there and told them about it, they were very much shocked about it. They never thought their own son was dating the royal sisters. In fact, his mother was so much shocked that he fainted twice. But she was actually supported that her son has found his special song pony, and especially about the last time what happened. And their love for each other remains so strong even during all the years have passed, all the months have passed. And during the first winter together, they actually celebrate hearts warming together in candles. And it was actually one of the most perfect days for even for Violet Winds and Celestia. Luna was actually celebrating the holiday with Shining Armor with his parents. For most of this holiday, Violet Winds has never been so happier to be with Celestia. And Violet Winds had even something else to ask her. He actually had bought something in Manhattan just for Celestia, and it was a necklace shaped as a star with their photos in it. And she loved the necklaces so much. She never thought, it was given as such lovely gift for any pony else except her own sister or her parents. But what else can she say about Violet Wind except that she loves him so much, that he treats her so well? She had never been so much treated so well over the years. She never thought that finding her true love would never happen. But it turns out to be much wrong. Celestia had found her soulmate, her special song pony. But she wasn't ready to get married yet, because they had only been dating for about a few months. But even Violet Winds were accepting as well, because he wanted to date Celestia even longer, maybe for like 2 or 3 years or more, just to see if this relationship even works, because they both agreed to jump in engagement to a marriage would too soon. They never know for sure if their feelings for each other will last that long. In fact, it didn't. Celestia and Violet had a big fight only shortly after the New Year's Eve. And they didn't see each other for the next couple of weeks because of this fight. But during this time, Celestia and Violet could not stop thinking about their special song pony, and especially for their love for each other. They both still loved each other. They hadn't even broke up. They just decided to take a break from this fight. But during this time, Violet started to love Celestia even more. And now he realized she is his soulmate, and he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. So, when he was in Canterlot for a visit, he bought a ring and went straight up to the castle and asked for Celestia. And she was in fact in the castle garden, just looking at the sky. Then he walked up to her and even proposed to her right there. And even they had been talking about waiting for a number of years, but she actually said yes, because she felt more ready than now, and she even apologized to Violet Winds about their fight, and he accepted her forgiveness. And when Luna found out about this engagement, it was a big happy news for her, because she had never been so happy for Celestia. And over the next few months, the wedding was a big one. It was probably one of the biggest of the year. And what happened later on actually, Celestia had asked Twilight to be her bridesmaid, and Violet Winds had asked Spike to be his best man. And who was the ring bearer? Well, it was actually Luna. And later they went to a tropical island for their honeymoon, and it was a much romantic time. They were there for about the next 3 years, 3 weeks. Then, barely 2 years after they had been married, Celestia told Violet Winds that he is going to be a father. But it turns out he was so shocked but happy. And a couple months later, they had actually 2 daughters. But just barely 2 years later after all, Celestia told Violet Winds that she was going to be a mother again. But this time she had 7 daughters. And to be in fact, Violet was so much shocked about this, and he faded at least 10 times when she told him over and over about this. And he didn't came over it, but still he loved Celestia even more than ever. And especially to have so many children, it was a blast just for him. And just barely 5 years after the 7 daughters was born, Celestia told Violet Winds that she was having a big surprise to him. And when she told him that she is going to be a mother a 3rd time, he fainted at least 10 times. But they get 3 sons this time. And Celestia and Violet Winds could never be more happier to have so much big family. And especially to have 12 children, and they both was happy to have such big family together. And they could never be more proud to have 12 children together. And how much they loved each other, it was more than their love was so strong for each other. In fact, Celestia had granted Violet Winds with one of the biggest wishes that she ever could make. She made him immortal, like her. And that's how Celestia and Violet Winds got a big family and also found a true love. The end.